What's up, everybody? Big thank you for taking a chance and purchasing one of our Stitch It To Go bags, the Boxy edition. Let's take a closer look at this bag. As you're already aware, the Boxy bag comes in two different sizes. It comes in a large size and it comes in the smaller size as well. Now, the instructions for the big one and the small one are exactly the same. So for today's video, I'm going to be focusing on showing you the larger bag and use all the same steps again to make the smaller bag. Also, I'll give you the steps to put a lining in the bag if you so choose. And additionally, just some pro tips on how you cut this out and get it all put together. Let's get started. I have found the best way to do it is that I'm going to first take my rotary cutter. I'm just gonna run it all the way down the middle here, separating my bag into two pieces. This top piece and our middle piece here are in line with each other. So I can kind of double cut essentially, and I'm going to trim all the way down. And then start my sub-cutting down. Now, if you're familiar with our original stitching bag, you'll see that there's lots of similarities on how you make this bag as to our new Boxy bag. What's just so awesome with this is that you're gonna learn a couple new techniques on how to build a bag like this. However, the majority of the steps will be the same. So at this point, this is what your bag should look like. I'm gonna go ahead and cut these out just using a pair of scissors. At this point, all of the cutting that we need to do for our bag is done if you're going to make a bag that does not have a lining in it, like this one here. Okay. If you want to do a bag with lining, very simple. This is just one fat quarter is all you'll need to make a lining for a bag like this. I'm going to lay this down on top. I'm going to grab some kind of marking pen, marker, doesn't matter, and I'm going to trace my outline onto a folded fat quarter. Simply just traced it on top of there, and now I'm going to cut it out. And like I always do, I'm going to cut on the inside of that line because I want my lining to just be a little bit smaller than the body of the bag. Time to cut out these notches. Just like I did the ones on the bag, I'm going to go ahead and use a pair of scissors. So at this point, what you should have is your lining cut out if you're gonna do a lining and the body of your bag. Also, I got my zipper here as well. Little pro tip for everyone. That way we don't accidentally lose our zipper. I'm going to take it to my sewing machine, and at the very, very edge, I'm going to just do a little back stitch, forward, backwards stitch on this to ensure that I can't accidentally pull my zipper pull off. Just a little security measure there. Now it's time to start assembling our bag. Now you're going to see that they're very similar steps as to our other Stitch and Go bag. If you're going to do body of bag only, not with lining, you're gonna take your zipper, you're gonna lay it down. With the long edge, you're going to have your zipper teeth side up, or pretty side down. You're gonna line it up with the top of your zipper and you're gonna sew all the way down. Now if you want to use lining, you're going to do the exact same steps. However, first, you're going to lay down your lining, zipper with zipper teeth going up, and then the body of your bag right on top of that. And you want to make sure that they are as parallel as you can possibly get them with each other, the body of the bag and the lining, if you are doing that lining step. Now grab yourself some Wonder Clips, and we are going to start sewing. We're going to sew all the way down this entire length of our zipper. Now, every sewing machine is a little bit different. However, pretty much all that I've ever seen can do this next step. You're gonna take your presser foot and you're gonna put it right next to that zipper, and you're gonna sew all the way down. It's not a measurement, it's not a 1/4 inch seam, it's not an 1/8 inch seam. It is machine foot up against the zipper and all the way down. We design our bags that way they have an exposed zipper. It's called an accent zipper. It looks cute, it looks amazing, and it's the easiest, fastest way to throw in a zipper without having specialty tools or having to change the feet on your machine. Now we're going to pick this up, put it into our sewing machine. Don't forget our back stitch. And we are going to sew all the way down. From here, we're going to take this and we're going to press open the body of our bag. If you don't have a lining, it's gonna look just like this. If you do have a lining, it'll look like what you're seeing here. And then I'm gonna fold it over the top of itself, lining up my lining with the body of the bag. And I'm kind of gonna just stretch that into place here. Just making sure I get a good press on this. Next step is the exact same that we just did here, except on the other side. If you're going to use lining, throw down your lining first. And you wanna make sure that we get parallel with the other side of our bag. That way we're not too far left or too far right on our zipper. So as you can see here, I lined it up with my edges here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and take the body of my bag right on top. Now again, if you're not doing the lining, you just skip that step. I'm gonna throw some clips on this just to be safe. I'm gonna do the exact same steps as I just did. Again, if you are just doing the body of your bag, this is what it's going to look like. Two pieces sewn on opposite sides of each other. And then if you have a lining, you're going to take that lining and stretch it out over the other side of the bag. So, lining version, no lining version, as you can just see as visuals there. Now it's time to do some top stitching. But when we're doing top stitching, a little pro tip here, we might as well do as much as we can at one shot. So what I'm gonna do here is I've got this piece that I've been sitting alongside of my machine here. I'm gonna fold everything to the middle. So I've got this all the way down. To hold it in place, I'm gonna throw a clip in top and bottom. I'm gonna repeat to the other side. So now with this prepared, I'm gonna do a 1/4" seam on both sides of this piece here as a top stitch. Again, that 3.5 to 4 millimeter stitch length. I'm also gonna put a top stitch in all the way down my bag, on the body of my bag side. Just a nice top stitch, it gives it that finished look. Now if you're working with lining, you're gonna wanna make sure to pull both your lining and the body of your bag over as you are doing this step. Lining side if you're doing a lining, top side if you're doing a top side. Rinse and repeat onto the other side here. So that's all the top stitching that we need for our bag. Now it's time to do that little accent piece. Now, there's a couple ways that you can do this. You can have pull tabs on both sides of your bag. You have it on one side of your bag. Also, there's enough pull tab that if you want to do one of the long, like tail-like pull tab, you can do one of those as well. I'm gonna give you all the options here in just one second. But we have to make up the actual piece here. Same exact thing, top stitch settings. I'm going to sew 1/4 inch on both sides. We can cut it in half and fold them so that way they make little tabs like this one here, or we can leave it long, which simply means we're gonna just fold this in half like so, and this is what we'll be adding to our bag. Lots of different options there. However, I wanna give you both of them because now is the moment for this. Since I already have a bag that has pull tabs on both sides, I'm gonna do the long tail. That way you can see them both at the end. So now at this point of the bag, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the body of my bag, these two pieces here, I'm gonna fold them to the inside, and again, if you're just doing the body of the bag, ignore the lining. I'm gonna fold them up towards each other. I'm gonna line up those bottom edges. I'm gonna sew all the way down, straight across here, doing a back stitch on both sides. If you're gonna be doing a lining like the bag that you see here in front of me, I'm gonna do the exact same step. However, I'm gonna leave about a 5-inch hole here at the bottom. That way I can pull my bag through that at the very end. The next step here is where everyone seems to have an issue with how it works, guys. It is so easy to do, just follow along. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick up my bag. And it's the same step whether or not you have lining or you don't have lining. And I'm going to open up this seam here at the bottom of my bag. That's why the back stitch is so important here. I just find that if you take it, kind of fold it in half, and you just start working on it with your finger, pushing it down against the body of your bag, it goes just fine. You want to open this seam up. Now, the reason why I want the seam open is that it'll make it so it lays perfectly flat, like this seam that you see here. It lays it down perfectly flat, as opposed to if you flip it to one side or the other, it might have a little bit of a roll into it. Not a big deal, but again, we want the best looking bag that we possibly can. A little pro tip for you. I'm using this as my guide, my zipper, 50-50, 50-50 on this side. Now, if you're doing a lining, we have to do it to both sides at the same time. So let me show you. I'm gonna open up my lining. I'm gonna lay my zipper right on top of that seam on both sides, like so. And I'm gonna drop this right on top of it. 50-50 here, 50-50 there. And then I'll go ahead and throw a couple clips into this. Maybe one on each side here. Now I'm gonna rinse and repeat on the other side. Now if you're putting the lining in the bag, again, optional step here. Just like so. So I've kind of made myself a little pancake of sorts here. Now, this is the reality about bags, is that you can cut them 100% perfect, but any variation in sewing can change things further down the line. So let me show you what I mean here. This piece and this piece right here are supposed to line up just perfectly, okay? But if we don't sew our middle seam here absolutely perfect, then there's gonna be a difference in the math between the two sides. Putting on the zipper, if it's not sewn perfect, then there's gonna be a little difference here between the two sides. Now, before anyone goes out and panics, luckily these are so forgiving. I just wanna make sure everyone can see this just in the in case your bag looks just like mine. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take out a pair of scissors, and you see the little L shape here? I'm just going to use that as my guide, and I'm going to just snip, snip. Just like so, so they line up with each other. Super easy, no one needs to panic. The math on this bag is figured out to be a perfect split between the two sides. It's supposed to be a perfect split on the zipper. If there's any variation of that math, because everyone sews a little differently, everyone might be using a different stitch length, different stitch widths, that math can change just a little bit on bags. What happens is everyone starts panicking, as opposed to take a deep breath, we're going to just trim it up so it lands flush with everything else, and then you'll see that it works beautifully even still with this. So you see how I flush cut that on my two edges there? Now if you have lining, all we're gonna do is flip this whole thing over, make sure that we are pulled out as much as we possibly can, and we'll repeat the exact same step if we need to. Now on this one, I don't have to cut too much off of, but on some of the others, I might have to cut a little bit more. And again, this is just a normal step. It's not anything that you've done wrong. It's just a difference in everyone's sewing. Now at this point, it's time to ensure that our zipper is on the inside of our bag. Super easy to do. I'm gonna take my zipper pull, and I'm going to just go ahead and squeeze him into the inside of my bag. I just shoved him down in there. And then additionally, it is time to add in our strap. Now, if you're adding two straps, you're going to now tuck them in on both sides. If you're adding one strap, same thing. I'm gonna fold this directly in half. My loop side is what I'm going to push into my bag, leaving this side exposed. Now, I'm going to do it from this side of my bag just because I like the look of that, of whether or not when it's closed, is it going to run up against this or when it's open. That's all the difference is. Sneak this into my bag, and it's about the same width as a zipper, and so it's really, really easy to line it up with our zipper. Essentially, I'm just laying it down right on top of it. For the next step of our bags, there is the lining version and the canvas body only. For our canvas body only, I'm going to sew down both sides of my bag. This side and this side all the way down. I'm not gonna think about anything, okay? Now, if you're doing the lining version, what we want to do is I'm going to do the same thing, sew down both sides of my bag. However, when I'm doing it, I am going to just pull out this piece of my lining. So I just wanna go straight over the top like this and not catch my ends of my lining. It allows it to mold better my lining into my bag at the very end. If you skip this step, it can make it a little bit awkward. However, it's really easy to do. I'm simply going to just take this and pull these pieces out, add my clips back on, like so. I'm gonna sew all the way down. And then when it's time to sew my lining, I'm gonna do the exact opposite. I'm gonna put my lining down and fold these pieces out of my way. Let's go ahead and sew. So you can see these are still loose. I'm gonna go ahead and do my other side now, just while I'm here. At this point, we can move on if we're just doing the body of a bag. However, I've got a lining in this one, so I'm going to just rinse and repeat those exact same steps here. And I'm going to just pull these pieces as far away from the bag as I can get it. And then I'm going to sew all the way down. So now at this point, it's time to box our edges. Now there's 4 boxes that we're gonna be doing. Now if you're doing lining, it'll be 8 boxes. But the whole reason why we pulled those out of our way while we're doing our lining is to help so we can make those boxes. If we didn't, this would all be pinned down, and then this would be a really hard and tight fit. We want it to look like a box bag at the end. You have to do that step just to make sure it's a little bit easier. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my hand in here, open up my zipper as far as I can get it, and then I can start separating out our pieces here. So I want my canvas to be first, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, smash the edges together like so. So I've gone from the orientation of flat to the opposite orientation. I'm going to sew down 1/4 inch seam. Go ahead and trim off any extra, and then we're going to do it to the next side. So if I was just doing the canvas bag, I'm on my 4th seam here, I would be done. However, since I'm doing a lining, I'm going to do this exact same step 4 more times to box in my lining. Also, now is the moment that I'm going to trim off my extra zipper. Now that we're at the point that we've boxed in all of our corners, now it's time to flip this bag right side out. Now, leaving a big enough hole there is crucial. That way it wants to flip being pulled through that hole through the lining. If you don't have a lining, it just goes right over the top of itself. You want to make sure that you take your time, poke out your corners, make sure they are nice and good here. Double check your seams, making sure that we don't have any seams that have blown out or anything like that. Okay, things are looking great. Now at this point, if you didn't do a lining, your bag would be complete. However, it's time to finish up the lining that I have in my bag by just rolling in the edges of our hole. I'm going to throw some pins on this because the hole's a little bit bigger. And you can whip stitch this closed, you can take it to your sewing machine and just throw a little 1/8 inch seam all the way down. All those options are totally okay. I'm going to just add a little top stitch. Now we're gonna punch everything inside of our bag, push out our corners. And guys, just like that, our Boxy bag is complete. Super fun kit. Let's see them both side by side, kind of a little comparison for you guys. The double tab looks awesome. However, I'm a big fan of just the one long tab as well. Both options are amazing. And guys, with that, I want to give you guys a huge shout out. Thank you so much for taking a chance on our products. The Boxy bag is brand new to us, and this waterproof canvas is absolutely amazing, but we are still in the infancy stages of what we are doing. So thank you so much for taking a chance on this product, and we'll see you on the next one.